So, Lenah, you have built such a diverse career from network engineering to cybersecurity consulting, and now research and lab management at CMU Africa. Can you please walk us through your professional journey? What has been the thread connecting all of these different experiences?
In fact, it's interesting that you're the second person telling me that in about 2 weeks. I have had quite an interesting, unconventional journey, I must say. But okay, the first job, to be honest, was purely a function of luck that I joined network engineering. But I ended up, loving it. But my passion was always I'm a very good programmer. But then I joined networking, that thing of, the first job you find kind of thing. And since then, I've just been really intentional in exploring other areas. Like I remember when I started my first networking job, when I looked at all the issues I was solving, I think this is very common. You will hear this a lot. I thought about, being in cybersecurity because it was sort of an umbrella to so many. Cybersecurity is really like an umbrella to all the all the tracks that you can go in engineering. Yeah, and then after that, I was really into the thrill of how to make a sale that has two advantages, which is how to sell a product and how to sell yourself. Then after that, so I went back to the field practicing cybersecurity, a bit of a cybersecurity analyst. Then I was an engineer. And then I think I wanted to do some bit of research because I wanted to go in depth into issues and things like that. So it's been really a function of curiosity and exploring the engineering path. And maybe later on, I'll tell you how that has really influenced how, for example, in picoCTF, how when I go to class and they ask me, cybersecurity, the only thing they think about cybersecurity is hacking. But then I'm here in a classroom. I have students from marketing department. I have students majoring in sales, and they're telling me, what am I doing here? And that's the part now I am usually able to convince them that, what, this is an ecosystem and we know we all need each other. But I think it's also because of the experience that I've had in the field.
And I absolutely agree with you about not necessarily needing to know how to hack in order to join cybersecurity. Fun fact, I was actually exploring this career when I was a high school junior, and someone told me when I was sharing my passion for cybersecurity as well as really wanting to go into the field, this individual told me, do you know how to hack?" And I said no, and this person said, "Well, that's not going to be possible for you." Lo and behold, after not pursuing cybersecurity for so many years, I decided to join it, and I can confirm you don't need to know hacking. You just really need to have a passion for the field, as well as having that innate curiosity. So, with that being said, Lenah, what sparked your interest in cybersecurity?
I think I had really great mentors in my first job, and I could see some of the issues that were coming to our desk to resolve. So as a network engineer, the way it usually happens that the people who actually detect these issues and the monitoring people and the people who fix it, they are very different teams. And so I thought that cybersecurity, oh, and that time, cybersecurity was a buzzword, it's like the AI today. So one, it was a pretty new field, and I thought that was my chance to join. And two, I was already into the technicals, and you realize that there's implementation, and then there's the implementation done right. So it was really important to come to the implementation done right because I feel like that is where the difference is in terms of engineers. Like it's still we say that we have programmers and then we have software engineers, people who do it right. And so you see that yeah, and that time, there were so many hacks. I was in Kenya. There were so many hacks that were I could hear in the news. And so that is what, made me join the field.
Your work with the International Telecommunication Union on the Global Cybersecurity Index sounds fascinating, analyzing national cybersecurity commitments across member states. What were some of the most eye-opening discoveries from that work, and how did working at that macro policy level influence how you think about cybersecurity implementation on the ground?
I think it's one of the most fascinating work that I have done on a policy level, that to say. As I said earlier, I think I was mostly on the technical side. So you see, when you're on the technical side, it's usually about, fixing configurations and things like that. And so when I did this job, which I really appreciate, the chance that I was given, is I was able to appreciate the complexity of managing cybersecurity at a national level and appreciate the macro activities that make up a cybersecurity culture. So I was able to appreciate cybersecurity, the complexity of managing cybersecurity at a national level, and also appreciate the macro activities that go into managing cybersecurity at such a scale. And it also made me appreciate what countries are doing, where they're struggling and things like that. And interestingly, I think when I went through this work is when I truly appreciated what picoCTF Africa was doing. That this is something that, for example, the ITU calls for, that countries should be doing. And I was right in the middle of it, and I was trying to push countries to actually do this. And so I feel like it gave me new energy to identify who to talk to and what to talk to them about, and how to convince them that this program was actually good, and especially how to sustain it. Because I think that is one of the things that, we do every rounds every year, but then how do they sustain it, and especially how do they get support locally? Because People City of Africa handle 54 states, and we're not able to get everywhere because of a couple of reasons. It could be a language barrier, it could be instability, and therefore, how do we train the people on the ground? And in fact, this is one of the reasons why we started the teachers training. I think principal does that. We started a teachers training because what we wanted to do is leave them the knowledge and continue so that they can continue in our absence.
Fantastic work that you're doing with picoCTF, Lena. With that being said, how do you stay current with emerging threats and security advances in your position? What are your go-to resources or practices for continuous learning?
I follow a lot of groups on LinkedIn. I follow Twitter. Sometimes I use, actually, now with the AI. I can just go on Twitter and just use AI to query all the posts in a certain area, and I just get my updates. But those are usually the ones, the usual blogs. But again, I think I also get a lot of staying up to date with the team that I have right now, because we have a team of about, at some point, I think it was about 10 security analysts. And those are the ones, when I sit in meetings, they also keep me updated, and it's something that I really appreciate given the amount of responsibilities I have.
And I really like how you honed on the importance of teamwork, how you and the picoCTF Africa staff really work together in order to keep up to date with the latest trends, as well as working to deliver the best content possible.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
You are simultaneously managing the Upanzi Lab, running the picoCTF Africa program, and doing research work. That's an impressive juggling act. How do you maintain depth and quality across these different responsibilities, Lena? Have you developed any particular strategies or frameworks for contact switching between management, education, and technical work?
I think I've learned a lot through the process. At some point, I would actually, and it's interesting you mentioned context switching, that context switching can make you sometimes I always ask, when I post my status, say on WhatsApp, and I ask the question, what are you addicted to currently, or what are you getting addicted to? Everything is just addictive, including context switching, to a point that you're always switching between things so fast you're not able to deliver especially technical work. So one of the things I think that I appreciate is one, I work with the teams very closely, and I sit with them through meetings, through brainstorming meetings, and that is the time that I really get to focus. Number two is that, I believe that everybody, especially, when you're getting into very busy roles, you need to have personal goals, the ones that keep you grounded. And then there is the normal office one. I think it says one wheel, like, the normal office wind.
Mhm.
And so what I do is that you need to find time. And it's actually a friend of mine who gave me this advice, and I work with him. And he told me that he sits in the morning to do the most technical work that he needs to do and then proceeds with the day. The other thing is meetings. Meetings can take away all your time. You need to block time. I think this is common sense. You need to block time or a day when you don't take meetings. So it's really about discovering when you're most effective, and then when you can deliver technical work, and make sure you use that time for technical work. And then the management, that is has a lot of fast context switching. That is work you do when you are a bit more when you've already done your technical work, or at night. It depends on who you are. You really, and I think that is one of the things that I've discovered, is that when do I work best, better best. Yeah.
Right, because everybody has their own style, as you mentioned, Lena. And I really found that your advice on keeping goals grounded is really applicable. Like this one quote says, dream in color, but make sure you live in black and white. And I think that really hones in on make sure you have dreams and goals, but at the same time, you want to still live in reality and not get your head too much in the clouds.
Absolutely. You need to be simple. Like these are, and it's usually not a long list. If you have about 7 things that you're keeping as your goals, you will not achieve any of them. You need to. I think I like this saying. Planes planes take off one at a time.
Mhm.
Yeah, so you need to, they are always in a row, but planes take off one at a time. So you need to list the things that you need to do, that what you want to achieve, and focus on one of them. And if you're focusing on maybe one, two, three, and that's it. If you're focusing up to 5, 7, you won't achieve it.
What advice would you offer young women who are considering careers in cybersecurity or STEM? What do you wish someone had told you when you were starting out, Lena?
I think so. This question about offer young women, I don't know if you're gonna record this, but I think we need to stop looking at ourselves as, I'm an engineer because I'm X because I'm a woman. You just need to be, first of all, okay, you need to be fearless. You need to just try things. Sometimes, you see, I think the problem with women is that we doubt ourselves too much. And that those are not my words. Those are someone's words when he was trying to talk to me and about a certain job, and then a role. Actually, it was a project, and I told him, can I really do this? And immediately the next statement he told me is, what is wrong with women? Why is our first step always doubting ourselves? And that's the message. If you it's innate. We are born like that, to think that we are not capable. Therefore, you just need to work on it every day. to make sure that you actually you start eroding this thought step by step. About what I wish someone told me when I was starting out in cybersecurity, I can't think of anything. I think I was told I had great mentors, to be honest. I had great mentors, and I've never been shy about asking someone, "Hey, what do you think about this?" So, I always ask, and people have always volunteered information. Have also always pushed me forward.
And that's great to hear that you had mentors who really encouraged you to go on this path, Lenah. I think that's an important part of starting out as well, is finding those people who can really make you want to self-improve and grow as an individual and professional.
Yeah, absolutely. You need to find mentors because I mean it's psychological that women we um we think through things by talking to other people. So for me, that is one thing that I've actually appreciated. That I'll call someone and tell them, "Hey, I want to talk to you through this. Don't say anything." And by the end of that conversation, which most of the time is a monologue, I know what I want to do.
You have clearly broken through to leadership positions, country manager at Berger, security engineering lead at Harel Malik, lab manager at CMU Africa as well. What competencies or skills do you think were most essential in reaching those leadership roles? How did you leverage the knowledge you obtained during your master's degree at Carnegie Mellon in these roles? And finally, what would you tell women who aspire to leadership in cybersecurity?
Uh, Post CMU, I think one of the things that CMU gives you, and one of the things I am completely grateful for, is the exposure that I got at CMU, both CMU Africa and when I attended Pittsburgh. That I was able to interact with the different fields. Oh, my master's program was quite exploratory. Like I did all the way from cybersecurity, from networking, which was very easy for me, all the way to natural language processing, which was tasking for me. And that I think that exploration, trying out new things, it was one of the drivers, and as well as CMU, the community that I had at CMU, people who are able to support me, people who have always encouraged me. I'm always grateful to the professors, my faculty advisors, and the like. And about women who aspire leadership in cybersecurity, I mean, just do it. But especially the advice that I give to Africa. I don't know about other regions. I don't think I've done this experiment that much. You may find, cybersecurity, every time you mention cybersecurity, I'm sure the only word that people hear, like people resonate with most of the time, is security. And when you mention security, you're probably mentioning police and military. And so I describe a cybersecurity engineer or cybersecurity professional as a highly skilled engineer, that you're able to see things in depth. You're able to have that patience of learning through things. And so, what I would encourage women who are looking in leadership in cybersecurity, your field is fine. You just need to start looking into how cybersecurity applies to your field. You are a doctor, you are someone who's doing sales, you're doing marketing, you start looking at some of the issues that could be, for example, maybe it's someone who's just doing delivery of packages. Maybe you just need to know that, hey, I need to scan this package to make sure that it's not something malicious. If I'm opening an email, then I need to be aware that I could be a target because someone thinks that I'm not very tech savvy. But we also fall for the phishing attacks. So I think just start where you are and start exploring how cybersecurity applies to your field. And then, step by step, I say it one plane at a time, you revise your goals and you'll get there.
So true. And I really like how you honed on the fact that cybersecurity is not just a technological issue, it's a societal issue. It will
It
affect
is.
us all in one way or another. So it doesn't matter what job you have, you really have to be cognizant of possible threats and risk.
It is a cultural issue. It is a social issue, in a way that we have the word security has been there. It's just that the platform, that is the social context of the security, has changed, and therefore we are all affected. It's a cultural issue that we have to change. Taking shortcuts is our. I think we all take shortcuts, and it's the shortcuts that always get us in trouble.
What challenges do you think women still face in STEM and cybersecurity today? Have you seen meaningful progress, or are we still fighting the same battles? And what can organizations and companies actually do, not just say, to change this?
So I think this is a touchy subject because I think, and these are not my words. So just to give you a little of a background, every year after having the CTF program, we offer certification programs. So, I was giving up gadgets in the first, in the beginning, but then we thought, these people who are actually participating in the CTFs already have these gadgets. So let's try to increase the number of people who are certified and who can be injected into the profession. And we actually have a special category for women in cybersecurity where we take the best team that has most number of women, which is more than 50%. And after the CTF, I give out these certifications, and I take time and I've taken time to interview the winners, the winners who are getting these certifications. I also, every time I'm out on training, and I'm actually, we are headed to a couple more this year. I actually meet. I take a time to meet women alone in a room, and then I meet also men alone. And I ask them, "What's wrong with the women?" And they ask the women, "What's wrong with you guys?" And "What's wrong with the men?" And there are two things that I've learned that women tend to go into the administrative side of cybersecurity and not the technical side. Now, I don't have an opinion on which one is needed exactly. This is context on the ground, what is required. But I have a bias for more women staying more technical, right? And so that is a challenge that I have not understood to date. And then there's always the fact that, sidelining, or they are not confident enough to just women alone doing something. But I think that is changing in a couple of ways. For example, here in Rwanda, I get a lot of teams that are just 5 people in a team and they're all women. I do get that. Um, and then, but I've not seen it in other regions. In fact, in other regions, I'm struggling. I just get men are the only ones who participate. However, there's a cultural problem. I don't know if it is there where you come from, that there are these traditional roles of women. And I think there are some women that I've met and I have spoken to them and they were able to go convince their parents how to break out of this.
Mhm.
And I think that is what needs to be done. That we, women who have broken out of this and we are practicing cybersecurity, we have a duty to hold at least one person and bring them into, lead them into the field. I think that would be my parting shot. And that includes like organizations, what they can do, identify someone, this person is good in this, and walk them through.
Just to kind of circle back to what you said about women taking on more admin roles and not technical roles. I do have a mentor who I asked this question about, and she said that The problem isn't necessarily at the top or the bottom, it's more so that middle management. For some reason,
Right.
there aren't so many women in those roles, and I think the
I
question
see.
is how do we address this across the board?
I see. That's an interesting perspective. Uh, oh, that's an interesting it's an interesting finding that I'll have to think about. But I still insist that there has to be hand holding and women sharing more, even the ones at the leadership, they need to share more that I didn't jump here. I went through I went through a path. Recently I met some amazing ladies who are threat researchers. Young ladies, and they have pushed themselves and they're doing threat. I thought that was brilliant. So I think it's also a cultural shift. It's a cultural shift. And as I said, you're a man, woman, find that woman in that middle level and mentor them into the space. That's it.
Right. It's really about women sticking together and empowering one another. And Lenah, you have been running the picoCTF Africa program for almost 4 years now. What motivated you to take on this role, and what impact do you hope it's having on developing the next generation of cybersecurity talent in Africa?
Oh, I see. I see a lot of people joining the field in very nuanced capacities. And I say this because one of the things that we are demystifying is that cybersecurity is not necessarily hacking. And I think that is a beautiful story to tell. The other thing is that, and so in the context of building the next cybersecurity talent, I always talk to people that we need to think about this as building a pipeline of cybersecurity engineers or experts or professionals. That means you need to think about all the areas, even if it is sales, they know how to do that very well. If it is their programmers, we need to have. I meet a lot of software engineers, and what I usually tell them is that no, 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 you don't need to be a hacker. I'm giving you this course, you go through it so that you are aware of all the decisions that you're taking, design decisions that you're taking through your software. Or you can decide you're an entrepreneur. Great. Start something in cybersecurity, develop products, and then think of it as a community. So for me, the way I usually look at it is that I bring everyone in. I don't just go to the IT department or computer science department. I bring everyone in. And this is my little way of changing the culture. And one other thing that I usually insist, there's something about teaching. When you teach, you get it twice. So we have done this thing of every time I interact with the students, I encourage them to go back home, to go to the markets, to go to whoever, assist someone who's struggling with, using a phone in terms of cybersecurity, is falling for, is falling for like a clickbait, or they're being scammed online, this catfishing and things like that. I encourage them to always, and this is something that we want to do in picoCTF, to be able to acknowledge these people who are doing work in their communities. And you see, in a way, everybody has a role. It is a culture shift, and the talent that is being built, it will be applied in all whatever field they're in.
I really like that advice you give to individuals who participate in the PICO CTF Africa programs is if your neighbor or a friend or a family member has a problem with something security or tech related, they should be able to help. In fact, what I do, I help my parents sometimes when their phones malfunction and they call me the IT support at the house because I'm able to
Yeah.
fix all their problems. So I really kind of like that piece of advice, and I think we can certainly impart that to our audience members wherever they are and whatever they're doing.
That is the way it should be.
And finally, one of your career objectives is to revolutionize business and service delivery for a better economy. That's ambitious and inspiring, Lenah. How does your current work at the Upanzi Network and with digital public infrastructure fit into that larger vision? And where do you see yourself taking this work in the next 5 years?
Um, okay. So you see, working at Upanzi, honestly, I call it has been quite it was I've been really lucky to work at Upanzi Network and focusing on digital public infrastructure. As I said earlier, the society has been here, security has been here. It's just that the physical space or the space in which we operate as there's an additional space in which we operate, and this is now the cyber. And one of the works that I really like about what we do at Upanzi Network is we are thinking about, there's been a shift of public infrastructure or public goods. We have schools, we have, education, roads. And now we're changing that shift to providing IT services. We're providing infrastructure, really, IT services to the population um, at an easier and at scale and all that. So the work that I do at Upanze, I actually, look at a lot in digital identity, basically identity. Wait, you start that part up. The work that I do at Upanzi Network, we do a lot of work. I do a lot of work around identity. And why I love identity, and this is amazing because it is totally in line with a wish that I had earlier, because I thought that the beginning of cybersecurity challenges is at an identity level. And therefore, I do a lot of work around identity from the organization. And if you look at my history, I've also worked a lot of cybersecurity solutions that are trying to tackle this problem identity. And then we also have finance, and we have agriculture and healthcare and all that. And we're trying to rethink these ways, all these systems into a way of how do we provide these services in a much easier way. That said, I have I've had a background in cybersecurity, and I think one of the biggest issues with systems that are deployed at scale is this issue of accessibility and security. And where I see myself in the next 5 years is, being able to contribute at a much granular levels. We have, right now we have everyone talking about post-quantum computing, and we're talking about cryptography post-quantum. How do we migrate our systems into those? And especially when you're talking about identity, that means you're digitizing identities. I mean, organizations have done that, but most nationals have not, most countries have not done that. Means that you actually now become a honeypot for hackers to, identity theft and things like that. And so one of my biggest dream is to be able to contribute in depth technically into these fields and usefully to at government levels, Africa level, and the whole world.
Thank you so much again for imparting your knowledge to our audience.
Thank you so much, Dani. I really appreciate. Through this interview, I've also been challenged in terms of the questions you're asking, and it has really given me a perspective of what people see that I have done, which necessarily I don't see because I write it, I don't see it.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop the recording.